Hi guys, welcome to Stacking Wisdom. We're your hosts, Artem and Alex, and today we're joined with Claudio. Claudio, you're involved in sort of the music industry. You've been doing it for quite a while. You mentioned, but you don't
Can't
really
you tell?
but you don't really want to maybe mention too much to give away your age, right? Because we're always young, right? So
Young at heart. Young at heart.
Yeah. So the reason we brought you on to the show is we feel like we need to talk about all the different industries and music, and especially like house music, electronic music is kind of close to my heart. My brother is someone likes it too, and he's kind of involved in that. So we thought that we'd bring somebody who's sort of known the scene for a long time, but also has had a little bit of success. And one of the things that I noticed is you've recently been signed to a label in Italy, and I just want you to talk about sort of the journey that you've had over the time, and the sort of the struggles that you've had maybe in the business, and just talk about in the now, like what's happening now, and like what are your plans to how are you gonna sort of take this more of like, I think maybe it's something that started off as a hobby into maybe like a more of like a professional thing, right? So
wow. Back in my time, long time ago, we used to have these things called I love talking these stories. Okay, I guess that's my cue to just ramble.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I will ramble. I started off, ladies and mooses, when I started off a long time ago when I was 16. Well, even before that, I was in music, and you had to see that. I'm going to use this as my pretend piano.
Yeah.
So my parents got me into piano lessons a long time ago, and I had this ex-Soviet Union piano teacher. I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if he might still be around. But this guy with a very, very heavy accent, he would he was very strict, to say the least, right? And this is what got me into music, because I'm playing classical stuff, which is the basis for a lot of where people start. And why you put your wrist down? Why you put your wrist down? And you put pencils under my thing. I had to keep my wrists up the whole time. Play, ow, So musically, I started like that. From there, in the band, the high school band, I started playing brass instruments.
Okay.
So I had the piano and I had the drum. I still have a trumpet at home. My grandmother, she bought my father an accordion, big old, because Italian people play the accordion. It is beautiful. This accordion, beautiful, big red. There was no chance I was playing that thing. My father didn't even play that thing. So anyway, I went into brass instruments, but what I found with my experience was the music. Playing the Royal Conservatory and in the bands was a bit too restrictive for me. I needed something else, and I hadn't found it where I was finding it. Until this one day, I was introduced to something called house music. And I was 16. It was in the 90s. Can you hear this? It was in the 90s. It was in the 90s. When was I 16? It would have been 1984. So you have to imagine the scene back then. Everything was still very analog. Everything was being discovered. And my first turntables were belt-driven with a dial. And so industry standard is the Tech 1200s. Right? And there's the Geminis and the Newmarkets. Actually, I even have a set of Geminis at home. But the 1200s were that standard. Well, I had the Pinto of the 1200s. So if the 1200s were a Mercedes-Benz, I had the Pinto. I had Pinto might not be a good reference. Whatever the crappiest car you can think of in the world, that's what I had. Okay, and these things had a little dial like this, and you couldn't touch it, because if you touched it, it would go way off. So boom, 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 right? So with this 2-channel mixer that I got from a guy who's still, and I still say to this day who I got it from, because he's still pretty big in the scene, in the Toronto scene. So anyway, he was kind enough to give me this one mixer, and that's how I started spinning. And then from there, I went off to university. I didn't stay in Toronto. I needed to get out of Dodge, so I went to Western, which, for those who don't know, is in London, Ontario, down that way. And so there was kind of where everything kind of took off for me. And as I started, I was introduced to music. I was starting to buy. I wasn't really sure of a sound, but I just knew what I liked. I knew there was two aspects to it. There was and a lot of this comes to my personality. There is the feel of the music, what I like and what moves me, and then there's the business of the music. And right from the beginning, I knew I had to buy the stuff I didn't really like because I'm going to have to play at parties. But I also have to get the stuff I do like because otherwise right? So at Western, I ended up meeting this guy who ended up being my DJ partner for years. He and I teamed up. And
did you do like a back-to-back thing, or like what?
Oh, okay. Well, we did. Okay. Well, he became a bit of a mentor. So I really I met a lot of people who taught me more than I could have ever learned here. Yeah. So, and funny enough, next week's episode of my podcast, Tourhouse Music, I'm very familiar with this, will be featuring him. Nice. I got a nice half-hour set from him. This week is episode 20, which is 2 hours long. Nice. But I'm just listening to it in the car. It's like all the bangers, and I'm like, anyway. So the entire time of traffic as I'm driving here, I'm just bouncing.
We're actually listening to your podcast last week. We were driving, and it just automatically just came on. I connected my Bluetooth, because we were looking at your stuff, and it just like out of nowhere, I'm like, wow, nice. So like,
it sounds nice in the car, doesn't it?
It sounds awesome in the car. Yeah. You should definitely download it.
Tourhousemusic.com. TORHOSE, like a house. Music is in what we're talking about. .com. Anyway,
so in London, right? So
in London, Ontario. So here I am. He goes by DJ Dre Soul now, and back then he and another gentleman had we were kids back then. They had a radio show on the campus. A radio station.
University like radio station for students.
It was called CHRW.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. At London. So there's two schools in at London. There's Western and there's Fanshawe. Both had radio stations. The Fanshawe one was geared more towards top 40. Ours was a bit more independent and everything. So we had artistic freedom. And this journey that I started with Dre was interesting because he taught me so many things about how to blend music better. And he opened up Dave Seaman, Paul Oakenfold. Like he opened up different, all of these different things. But even Richie Hott and John Aquaviva, like really opened up this world to me. And so by kind of following and learning, our show. I say our show because he brought me on board, and we covered. It was a 2-hour show called Forces, the DJ Mix Show, and we was live set. And I'm gonna get a bit more theatrical because everything for me is theatrical. Where we were mixing live, so you have to picture there was this big mixing console. It was about 25, 30 channels. With all of the buttons and everything, almost looked like a space console. We had to tie in. They had 1200s here, but we had to tie it in with our own mixer into an auxiliary input. So we would be mixing live on the one channel with the ads and promo spots over here, feeling the phone because there wasn't a producer, and we're just doing this for 2 hours. It's just so much, and the speakers are here. It was a party, and then we connected with. The other DJs in the lineup, there's some hip-hop guys, there's some rock guys, and then we just would have this party. Fast forward a little bit. So we really got a groove on, and we would sometimes take the 2-hour sets and extend it to 6 hours, and we'd invite DJs. And there was local DJs, and guys that are still playing today would come on to the show. We'd had guys from Toronto. We had guys from the States. Like we'd have some pretty big names come on. And we were live sets, PA sets, everything.
How did you meet your friend though? Like, how did you guys?
Just because ex-girlfriend.
Okay. is it always a woman involved somehow, right?
Somehow, you know, and go figure. I don't talk to her at all.
And just out of curiosity, if you had tried to do a similar thing in Toronto, do you think you would have had just as much success or just as much exposure, or is it because you think you kind of moved away that sort of allowed you to kind of pursue? Like additional,
I think it did. I really did. I've never really been. I think Toronto is a great place, doing some really great things right now. I do think that there is a surplus of DJs, and I find many DJs are going outside the city to gain popularity and then coming back, which is one of the things that I am doing. Which is why I have, when we talk about future, I've got releases in Italy because I'm going out to come in.
Nice.
And nothing against the Toronto scene, because they've got some really great sound systems. They've got some really great parties. A couple of my friends of mine are working with One Loft right now. They just threw a really nice party. Nice. So it's some really good stuff. So going out there, I don't think I would have had the same experience and same success as I had in London. And you know, I had a thought earlier and I completely forgot about it. You know, we were bringing, at that time, here's the biggest star I saw right now. I met Russell Peters there on the show before. Nice. Because he used to spin hip hop.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's funny because there's so many things that I've learned about him recently. Like he used to do like boxing and stuff like that. And, like he's just like such a diverse person too. Like
completely. And I think it's a Toronto experience.
Yeah,
I think here you just get that diversity, and it's actually I'm using that as to kind of define how my music style is. It's based on this multiculturalism, this diversity that we have. So so the show, that was kind of the start of it, and then really. From there, we partnered up, started doing mobile DJ stuff. And he's Ukrainian, so we would do everything from weddings, little high school dances. You know.
You still have to buy all the music you didn't really like, right?
Absolutely. Oh, it was. But luckily, at that point, I was starting to get promos in. So the promos were great. Making connections with the right.
They were a hit at the weddings.
they were a hit. I remember one year we did Ukrainian New Year's, and I dyed my hair blonde just to blend in. Just to blend in. Go figure. Some of them were dark haired, but anyway, that was a lot of fun. And so and then as I started to gain popularity there. I would branch out. So I mentioned earlier that I was in, and you were in the other room. I entered in London. There's a big fraternal system. So like in the States, you got the frat parties. But in London, you have a pretty big one as well as Toronto. So over there, the fraternal system, and back in our day, you could order kegs, and then have them 5 delivered. Use what you have to use, and then go. Not for parties, because that doesn't work.
And nobody was underage, of course, right? So why would somebody do that, right?
I did. Why? So anyway, they would have these parties, and I started to become the DJ of choice. Now, mind you, I wasn't playing the music I wanted to play, but I was still getting the exposure to this stuff. Like just getting to the exposure to the crowds and getting the exposure to get a feel for what people wanted. And you know, like the stuff back then, it was like the Wild West, and a lot of DJs can tell you about it. How we used to carry our equipment, our speakers, our crates of vinyl, which you remember, the crates. Course, like you don't even have room for your hand grips because there's so much vinyl packed in there. Okay, this song and going, and then and you know you'd have breakdance crews dancing to when you threw down the hip hop and R&B and I'm sorry, you don't know. The music back then was a lot better. I'm a fan of trap music and modern hip hop, but the stuff back then was just it made you dance. It made you when they started fusing hip hop and R&B and
I think it almost created like a sense of community because it was such a like a blend of hip hop and like electronic music that was just sort of starting with a lot of the house stuff from Chicago, and it just kind of united people in like a lot of ways, right? Because it brought a lot of minorities together, it brought a lot of people that were sort of kind of felt outside of the scene, right? Of like popular music, and that sort of allowed the scene to kind of grow because of that little sense of unity that had and then because of that, because of the fusion, I think all the breakdancing, all that stuff that came about, and it was just a completely different scene back then, right? I mean, like you can't even compare it now. Like I mean, it's become so, I think, in a lot of sense, commercialized in a lot of ways, just because it's like a really popular thing. But I still think that it's, as far as like variety, electronic music is probably, I don't let's just say house music. I mean, it just has such a big diversity and such a big influence on different genres, and it's just become like a completely different beast nowadays, right? So.
Oh, absolutely, and it touches people in different ways. I have people reacting well to one podcast episode, and then well to another one, and it just it really depends on how it speaks to you, and that's what I found that this entire time back then really helped me because of the diverse music that I was playing, the diverse styles. My radio show. Or our radio show went from house music to drum and bass, and in a 2-hour span, for those of you who appreciate house music and DJing, to go from New York. I remember I had one New Yorkian soul, like just call it 118 beats per minute or something like that. Nice groovy house track with some instruments going, and then to start the show with that. And end up in drum and bass and jungle by the end of it. Like, it's just and not with the digital enhancements that we have today. Because today, if a lot of you listen to the radio and you hear remixes, some of them are done. We know that the mashups are done. They're predetermined. But sometimes some DJs will do them live, and they're able to mix songs, and you think, well, wait a second, how the heck does that go? Because in normal pitch control, you're not going to be able to do that. It's all computerized. So we can...
And because of the harmony and all that stuff too, it has to sync, right? So it has to flow.
Exactly. So they can do it now. Back then, you had to gradually bring it up. And then to drop something in was just constant adjustment.
Well, I think there was a lot more of an art to it as well, because you had to be a lot more of a showman as well, especially if you were performing live at a club or elsewhere, right? I think with the radio, it was maybe slightly like a different format, because you had to sort of play up to a little bit of like a top 40 thing to some extent. No, not at all.
Radio was totally underground.
Okay,
completely.
How do you feel with like CRTC trying to like control the content that gets played on the radio? Like how does that affected the way that the radio sort of works today?
Well, back then, I'm not sure. I haven't been on the radio now, but back then we were very lucky in the sense that all we had to do was do 20% of Canadian content, which for some genres it's it's difficult. For electronic music, it's not. Because there's a lot of good talent. Back then, it was just emerging, but a really big source of it was Stickman in Hamilton. We'd have so much Canadian content, and with the guys like John Aquaviva, anything John's thing. Hey, CanCon, right? So, and then we would sometimes do our own remixes, CanCon. As long as it wasn't as restrictive, we didn't mind. It was just filling out those forms, which is a pain in the butt. But nowadays, the one thing I find lacking in our city is commercial radio geared towards more underground scenes. We have them, but a lot of those stations really just play remixes of popular songs mostly.
Absolutely.
There's some of them that are on the campus radio have some good stuff, but the broadcast range isn't as far. I'm a 905er. I barely get them. Sometimes I'll tune in, it'll kind of creep in and be like, oh, it's a jam, and then out.
Do you feel like the radio is seen as sort of dying because there's so much accessibility to a lot of content online that I mean, even back in the days where we were talking before we even started taping, like taping stuff off the radio, right, or like recording sets and stuff like that. It used to be such a like a thing, right? You'd wait for the time, you go on the radio, make sure that you're all set up, like prep it and like start taping something and recording, and then like sharing with your friends and trading tapes. It was just like it's such a like a social thing at the time, right? And now it's just like it's become more of like
there's Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, SoundCloud.
In a sense, it's great that there's so much availability of what you actually want to listen to, and it allows you, I think, to explore a lot more than just like the whatever the show that was on like at 11 o'clock at night, right, or at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, yeah, because they say that you listen to a radio station for maybe 5-6 minutes max. I really don't know how they stay in, but. But I'll be honest with you. Come summertime, I listen on Sundays to the Cabana Mix all the time, and I can let that thing go pretty much for the 3 hours or 4 hours because it's something still to look forward to. And maybe it's because we're older and used to that kind of stuff.
Gun at heart.
Yeah. But yeah, so where were we?
No, you were just telling. I think you were still talking about
back then
being in fraternity and.
That market was doing all the parties, and what was good about those types of parties was they allowed you a bit more artistic freedom than you would think, because the kids were they wanted to hear whatever made the people that obviously there would be alcohol involved, but they would start off, they want to hear the popular stuff, but as the night went on, I found that I was going into really deeper house and really grooves, and I find they tend to be a bit more of a grassroots, and it reminded me of the old raves that we used to have, but at the time that I was doing it, those old raves were happening, so it was the cool thing to do.
And then when Toronto brought in all those laws with control and shutting down public play of music and stuff like that, it's really changed the scene, and there's some of the things that happened with some of the clubs and all the craziness that sort of came along with that. I think Toronto scene has evolved so much. I don't really know enough about it now. It's just because I haven't really been, I don't know, clubbing in years, but I still kind of follow a lot of the artists, and I think it's obviously it's always evolving, right? I mean, remember when jungle scene used to be huge in Toronto, and when you'd have all these MCs, and the thing about the Toronto scene was that you'd always hear MCs, over the top of the jungle music, right? Whereas now I'm sure it's evolved into something else, right? So it's
I haven't seen the jungle music in a while, and I don't hear MCs a lot. The one thing I notice the sound systems have gotten a lot better. The sound systems are ridiculous. I find clubs are really investing in that now, because they want the purity. They want a clear sound going through. They are, they're playing within the rules, because the city is making it very difficult to do that. But they're getting around it pretty well. You've got a couple places that'll be open to 4, 5 in the morning, at least. Something.
Sure.
Something like that, and then they have those day festivals like Veld and the rest of them. But I find that caters more to an EDM culture than anything else.
Yeah, but EDM was almost like commercialized beast that they're trying to promote to younger generation. That's really what it sounds like. I mean, it's
the trance. It's the Euro. It changes names every so often, but ultimately it's the same idea. Right, and exactly. Now is it called Jack and House, right? And the mashups, and it's funny, to my buddy, I'll send him samples of songs, and I'll say to him, hey, by the way, you're gonna hear this on the radio in the summer. You're gonna hear this on the radio in the summer, right? Because I've got having access to them in advance. I already can have the ear to know, okay, this will be there, this will be there, this will be there. So, but there's good things happening. It's just, when they took out our ability to have those parties, it did diminish a little bit. It made those parties made us a bit more of a community. Those parties, while there was a narcotic element to it, I don't think that was the main focus. I know it wasn't for me, but maybe I'm just
I think that's there's a lot of people that get into it for the music. There's others obviously that just want to do it for the party factor more so, right? And it's always been kind of a fusion of those things, right? But I think the roots of it always stemmed in the culture and like the unity of people, trying to come together and just have like a really good time. And I mean, like if
and the beautiful thing is you can be yourself there. That was the one beautiful thing. Is like no one judged you for anything. You went there, and I really admired the people who would go there just get lost.
And like the whole plur thing, I remember like the peace, love, unity, respect thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's all. You know what I mean? It's just I myself personally, I would go to a party and I'd be planted in front of a bass bin and just in my zone. I didn't need to talk to anybody. Just there I am listening. So yeah, and I still, like, when I go to parties, now I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just listening and just getting into it, like, just zoning myself out. That's it. So, but yeah, so that was kind of my experience back then. Is it got really busy, but then what I found was it was taking me in a direction I didn't want to go. I was starting to dabble in remixing. I actually won a contest. I was one of the 4 winners on a contest for a Canadian label called Network.
Okay. I've actually heard of it. I remember.
Yeah, they're from out in Vancouver. Yeah, Sarah McLachlan was on that.
That's right. Then like TS did some remixes or something.
Delirium.
Delirium. All the like
BT. Like all of those.
Late '90s, early 2000s. Yeah, BT for sure.
Yeah. So it was one of those things. So I entered it because I was getting all their promos, and this was when they were making the transition from vinyl to CD. So all the promos started coming out in a CD. I want CDs, I want vinyl.
But there's definitely been an evolution with the way that the music has been, sort of the way you transport it, the way you play it now. It's the art of the actual DJing is sort of fading out a lot of the ways. I mean, in a sense, it's kind of, if you're like a world-renowned DJ and you travel a lot, it used to be a pain in the ass when you arrive at the airport and you'd lose all your vinyls, right? Or like when you had to like drag like 3 or 4 different crates of vinyl just to make sure that you play all the new stuff and all the old school stuff that nobody remembers anymore, right? And just to make yourself diverse and to make yourself sound different. But I think that evolution is good, but it definitely, I think, is allowed some of the element of like the artistic side of it.
I agree.
And like the performance side of it as well. I think that it's kind of changed the way things are done as well. So
no, I agree. I find I've seen some DJs that are a bit too serious, too focused on the technical aspect of making sure. Well, I gotta get the bass down a notch, and okay. All right, now we got to do this. Okay. And it's taking out the flair of it all, the performance of it all, the enjoyment of it all. Because I think the DJ's got to be the first one enjoying it.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's almost like, because I used to like dabble in like working in kitchens and stuff like that. So I've studied with some chefs and whatnot before. So one of the things that they've always told me is, if you're not in a good mood, your food will taste like shit. Like it won't be good, right? So you have to be almost like, it's almost like you're sharing your mood or like your feelings with the rest of the crowd, right? It sounds kind of cheesy, but at the same time, it's kind of true.
It's absolutely true. My mood always reflects in my sets.
Absolutely. And sometimes you can be like really upset, but then you can still like have like a really hard driven set, right? But at the same time, it can still sound good, but it's not quite the same, right? It's just something missing, some element of that is just not there.
Absolutely.
But I think it's sort of always true, maybe even a lot of different artistic, I think, expression.
Yeah.
It could be of like, whether it be like cooking, or it could be art, or painting, or the singing, or something like that, right? It's always just, it's one of those things that always needs to be present. It's almost like you're like sharing a little piece of yourself with the people, right? Or the people that are that are consuming your art. And speaking of consumption, like how do you sort of combine the two things where you have the appeal that you're trying to get across to people, but at the same time also trying to kind of keep your integrity to some extent of yourself as an artist, and doing the stuff that you actually like, but also maybe.
This is the question.
It's a loaded question. That's right.
It is. Well, to be honest, back when I was younger, I got to the point where I was questioning that exact same thing because
I honestly think it's one of those questions that all the different artists really struggle with.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, it's not really specific even to music or DJing or production or anything like that. It's one of those like, you know, like one of those like lines. Do you go this way? Do you go that way? Like, do you stay in the middle? Like, you know, kind of.
Well, see, for me, it was a pivotal moment.
Life-changing. Life-changing.
It actually was a life-changing. The thing was, it was a life-changing moment because, so at the time I was pursuing the money, trying to make money because I had to make money. I had to get a lot of gigs and everything. And the day that I recorded, I burned a CD, not MP3. I burned a CD of a set.
Yep.
Played it in a club without even going anywhere near the booth. Oh, I was in the booth, but I was just kind of sitting back. And the people danced for an hour. And it wasn't house music or anything. It was the hip-hop R&B, whatever I had to play to get the people dancing. That was the moment I realized, okay, I need to reset this.
Yep.
Because I'm not happy with that.
I think there were a lot of DJs that actually got caught doing that, right? Back down in the days, because it's just like, you know.
It's the same stuff over and over again because music wasn't filtering quickly enough. It wasn't updating quickly enough. At least for me, it wasn't because back then, I don't know if you remember, there used to be almost a delay, a 5-6 month delay between music coming across the pond.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right? So for those of you who don't, I'm looking at myself.
Eurodance and all that stuff, like
So stuff across the pond, meaning it could be in Europe mostly, because this is the stuff I was dealing with. The most amazing songs would come out in Europe, and we would be there visiting. It's like, perfectly good house song, which is popular now. Was popular. Spiller, Groove Jet. Remember that song?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That song comes in. Right? Oh, it's a classic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when it came out, and I heard it in England, I was like, damn. Right? So I was like, I need this song. So I went to the record store and I got it. It was only £2-3. I'm like, great, I got the 12-inch. I'm going to bring it back home. Nobody. They're like, what is this? I want to hear Barbie Girl. I'm like, get out of here. So, no offense to Barbie Girl. But, you know, it's just, that's what got me. And it was like, okay, so there's this delay. There still is a delay. Like, there's going to be a lag. And I'm experiencing it now because I have access to promos, I have access to new releases, I have access to stuff that's not going to be released for a while, and I get excited about it, and I put it on my show, and then I realize it's still not where it's going to be. It's still growing, so I have to play it more and more.
And it's funny, I think sometimes you find like a really like a gem of a track, right? And you might play it, and you think that it's gonna blow up and it's gonna become huge, and it never does. Like it's
that too.
And then but then it sort of becomes like one of your secret weapons too, that you can use on like some of the special sets, right? So
yeah,
I mean it's almost like your special song, right? That you
absolutely
you can sort of use it for your advantage too to some extent, but. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that there was definitely a delay, and I think that it's still kind of happening in some of the music as well.
Yep.
It's probably not as relevant nowadays because you can just go online and you can do everything really online. Yeah. I mean, and maybe talk a little bit more about the evolution of with your podcast and be like doing stuff online as well. Like, how did you evolve into that kind of spectrum as well with time? And
well, that's the thing. So I took a break for a while because really, obviously, life happens. It may surprise you to think that I have kids, but I have kids. So, I did the family thing and the divorce thing, and I've got 2 sons, and I've tried to get them to DJing, but they're not there yet. They're still young, but I have everything for them. Guys, if you see this, I have everything for you. You will be cool as DJs, I'm telling you.
No, actually, to think about it, it's cool because, this is probably going to be on YouTube for the next 10, 15 years, right? I mean,
there you go.
Your kids can come back and watch this, and it's going to be like, a little piece of history to some extent, so...
I have turntables for you.
That's why he came. That's why he came on the show. That's why you see her.
I actually had to borrow. I bought my son a little Newmarket intro.
Nice.
thing,
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm going to. We'll talk about where I'm going. But I'm going to Europe in May, and so I need something to bring with me so I can at least play while I'm there because that's gonna be a while. Just from my bedroom. Anyway, so life happened.
Yep.
I took a break, and I played clubs here and there. I was on a ticket a couple years back. Well, so where it really got going was when my ex and I split, and we're amicable, so there's no drama or anything. Drama. That was when I bought Final Scratch, Serato's Final Scratch.
Okay.
And the funny part about me buying it then was I remember when Richie Houghton and John Apoviva were introducing it.
It was just like a new thing that everybody, it was going to revolutionize the industry, and everybody was doing it, and all the magazines were publishing all the
news. And we were doing the
yeah.
thing on our radio show. We were talking to, I think we were talking to John.
I'm kind of envious because I really wanted to get those, and I never did actually. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we were like, no way, this is going to happen, right? Well, it happened, and so I bought that, and I started to get my heart back into it, and then back to the fraternity scene. So there was a year I'm an alumni. There was a year I was helping the chapter here in Toronto and the chapter in London, and I ended up playing some of their parties with not with my Serato, but I bought the Tractor S4.
Okay.
Because my mixer. Bless that little thing. It lasted me 20 years. This big board, analog board, and then it developed a hum in it. I still haven't figured out how to get rid of the hum because I'm going to get rid of the hum because I want that mixer back because I want to do analog sets.
You said Newmark, right?
No, it was Roland DJ 2000.
Okay, nice. Oh wow.
With a nice little.
That's like a really classic one too. Yeah.
I'm classic now. I'm classic.
I used to have a Vestax mixer.
No, that's classic.
Yeah, it used to be like one of the ones I think Carl Cox used for like techno and stuff like that. I used to have a pair of Stanton Straits 100s.
No.
Yeah, but with time I kind of passed them on, and I do still have a lot of vinyl myself. I probably have maybe 600, 700 pieces of vinyl at home. So, but I've tried to only to hold on to the stuff that I actually kind of want to listen to, and I've actually tried to dabble into, try to order some music a little while ago from some of the record labels in UK, like Juno, like all those places that you can get some really good vinyl. And I try to get back into the scene, but it's become like so big and so diverse, and it's kind of cool that there's so much music coming out at the same time, but it's hard to keep up. It's so
difficult.
That's why I just said to myself, I need to focus on some other things in my life right now. So, but it's always kind of on the back burner. It's always one of those things that when I really get into it, it's almost like a little bit of an obsession, right? So
absolutely.
It's just,
and that was the thing is once the tap opens up, I found I was starting to make sets again, and my sets were good. And because no longer am I using my vinyl, I'm using digital, and I can put more stuff on, and I can get fresher tracks, and I can do stuff and manipulate it in more of an artistic way than I could with the vinyl. Because vinyl, for example, when you had to imagine when we were doing radio spots for our show back then. We would use the reel-to-reel, the ribbons. Those big reel.
So it's like the really old school stuff.
Really old school stuff. And when you want to
late
edit the
80s,
ribbon,
early 90s.
you have to cut the ribbon, tape it, and then that's like you cut and paste and everything. That was the original cut and paste. So and when you wanted the record to spin backwards, you do one of a few things. One, you just you turn it off and then just spin that way. Or if you wanted to keep it consistent in the mix, you take the reel-to-reel locking mechanism, put it on the turntable, flip the needle, bring it in, and then the record would play backwards for you as you're trying. That'd be your third record as you're mixing two sounds, and you have that thing going backwards. You can woof, 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 and then go.
I think really probably one of the best DJs that can probably mix like 5 different tracks together is Carl Cox.
Absolutely.
He's definitely the master of that.
Oh yeah.
And I remember reading somewhere like one of his interviews, and like somebody came up to him and they're like, "What track are you playing?" He's like, He's like, all of these.
Yeah.
He's like, all 5. You're like, what? And like, it's like he can create, like, you can create your own music on the spot.
Absolutely.
Where it's like, it's something that's never been heard before, and from a mix of 3 different or 4 or 5 different, records at the same time.
Well, it's the beauty of techno music is you have that, it's a bit more, the structure of the music allows for it.
Yeah.
Whereas more of, in my case, tend to be the tech house, the minimal, the house, because of the insertion of the vocals, it makes it, I find it a bit more difficult to get up to 5.
Sure.
But at the same time, that's the thing. Another inspiration would be Bad Boy Bill, if you ever heard him.
Yeah, of course.
That guy's like a hip hop DJ, but he's spinning hard house. It's amazing.
I remember him watching him in Toronto. I think right in front of the mayor's office. They used to like throw those parties. Like it was like an annual thing too, and I think they did it like 3 years in a row. Where they had a whole bunch of DJs like just playing like in the middle of the square, in front of the city hall. It was like one of those things that was just like so cool. And it almost seemed like the scene became almost like mainstream to some extent, but it wasn't still. Like it was just, I don't know. It was just like a really happy time for me. I remember back in the days.
Back in the day. Back in the day. So
so I guess with the evolution of everything going online, and you doing a podcast obviously now, right? So
that's kind of where I was kind of going with it. Is just as I started making things, just kind of happened, which I'm still trying to process. To be perfectly honest with you, it was coming from only a couple of years ago now, a year and a half ago, where I was making sets for traveling. I always made sets for traveling, and people hearing them were saying, "Hey, wait a second, this is actually really good." And so I was in Italy a couple of winters back, and well, it actually started from 4 years ago, where I'm just trying to redefine myself as a person. When you get to our age, you tend to, life experience happens, and I was getting tired of, I kept seeing people my age and younger pass away. And, we run all around, and life is so short. It really is so short. And every time we go to a funeral, life's short. Life's short. We have to keep living. And the next day you could go back to what you're doing. Well, it's this culmination of, losing people, seeing progress in children, seeing progress in life, seeing what's important, day job getting yelled at for nothing, and you're like, well, what the hell? Am I allowed to say hell?
Yeah, you can swear, you can do whatever.
Hell yeah!
You can do whatever you want.
So that kind of happened, and then the inspiration came when I was in Italy, and I thought, well, wait a second, and this is something I can actually do. Why don't we try it? So my partner and I, she kind of gave me the inspiration, and 15 years from now, I don't know if we're still going to be partners, but at the time, we were.
When you're rewatching this video, you mean, right?
Well,
in 15 years, with your kids, right?
Now. Ciao, come stai? Anyway, the point was this person kind of put the thoughts in my head that maybe this could be something interesting, and then it's a bunch of seeds that happened, and then what I've learned over time is no one can do things on their own at all. You try and you're not getting anywhere. So I reached out to a marketing company on Instagram because, to be honest, social media now, it's a little harder for us to process, I find, because it's just, really? Do people do this? Taking selfies, being comfortable in front of a camera enough to talk to a camera and just kind of...
But you know what's funny now? I think it's almost like we're becoming our parents to some extent. It's like, oh, this younger generation, what the hell are they doing? And it's always the older generation that always judges the younger one.
Because
they're like, I would never do this. Like, why the hell are they sharing their pictures of everything, right? Like,
exactly.
Why are they doing this? Like, they're so narcissistic.
See, I grew up in a house where my father was taking pictures and videos of everything. So I'm already used to this stuff.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right? I just don't understand, and I didn't understand. So I reached out to a marketing company. I said, look, This is my dream. I tried it on my own back then, and I didn't get as far as I wanted to go. So what do I do? And it happens to be that my marketing company was one of them was a DJ and fairly successful, and the two of them kind of sat down with me and we came up with a game plan. Well, now now I'm actually starting to make an imprint. Now I've got songs signed. Now I've got a podcast, and the podcast was always my intention to get back onto the radio. The best part about my podcast, in my opinion, is the absolute freedom to do whatever the heck I want. I went with heck. And every week, this is my podcast. I can play whatever the heck I want. Heck again. And I enjoy it. It's long hours, I'm not going to lie. And you think, why is it long hours? Well, every day while I'm working, I'm listening to new music, and I'm downloading new music. And it is overwhelming because I think I'm doing 2-3 gigs a week. And
you have to find those little gems that you can pick out and that can sort of reflect a little bit of you that you can project onto others, right? To allow to share that with them.
Well, but here's the thing.
And I think that's one of the things that for me maybe was why I sort of stopped going to the clubs, because I think after a while it's just you go into a club and like a lot of the times you felt like the DJ wasn't really playing what you kind of wanted to hear at all.
Yeah.
And like it just after a while, because like if you dug deep enough, I think, into the music, you were kind of exposed to so much different content, and it's like you can appreciate them playing what they're playing, but at the same time it's like the whole like customization aspect of it comes in, right? And like that's where the sort of internet started taking over and becoming like almost like a revolutionary thing where it allowed people to just kind of have a bigger grasp on things, really. So,
absolutely,
right? So
and I really find the importance. There's a couple of styles of doing it, and when I was younger, I would do the second style, which I don't really appreciate as much, and it didn't really get me far. Is DJs just playing the songs because this is a hot song, but there's no structure to it. And I didn't understand the wisdom of that until now.
Like Paul Oakenfold or somebody like that?
No, it's not that. Not necessarily naming anyone per se. It's just I was at a party a few weeks back, and I got to see how other DJs spin. And it made me actually more confident in my style because of my radio background, because even when I do my podcast, one of the benefits of it is I practice organizing it in a way that things have to grow, right? You can't just go boom, doom, do, like, oh, this song's hot, yay, 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 yay. No, you gotta build up, right?
You can't just have bangers all across the.
You can do bangers, but if you're building up banger, but it build up bangers.
Fair enough. Build up bangers.
If that even the terminology, I don't know. But that's the thing, is I've started to appreciate, and I can appreciate when DJs are doing that. And it's funny, I was listening. Someone commented when because I had one of the record labels I signed a song to actually reached out to me first, and they commented that they could tell my old school style in the new stuff because of the way that I picked my songs.
And I've noticed that too, because I honestly I just feel like a little bit of like more like a techie kind of like background in a lot of the stuff that you do, even though like I know that you try to maybe infuse and bring back a little bit of maybe like a little bit more of like an old school like house sound to some extent. Just because I think of the roots and the exposure that you've had before. But I can totally sense that too, and that really comes across. So that curiosity, like with the network stuff, right? With that label, did you ever get published? Did they publish?
Oh yeah, they
stuff?
published the. I wonder. So I had a few different DJ names, which I'm not repeating.
It's a secret.
It's not that it's a secret. It's just kind of it's a whole bunch of inside jokes that no one's gonna get and everything. But
it's the growth. It's the progression, right?
Yeah. So, but the one song that I got published, my first song that I have published, which is just sitting in a little display case on a CD, is under DJC, because for all my creativity and for all of my ability to mix, remix, produce, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I can't for the life of me figure out names for myself. I cannot. So, whatever. So back then, I made this breakbeat remix of a song, and they published it. And I won a little piece of software called Dr. Sample.
I think I've heard of it too.
And I've never used it. I literally have it in the box fresh.
So maybe you should open it up and then start making tracks with it, and then make it sound really old school.
The problem is, I'd have to find the storage, the memory storage, because I don't know if they make those anymore.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. So
there's been so much of a progression, I think, with so many different pieces of equipment that have been released over time, and there have been some, I think, pretty incredible ones, maybe that have been released maybe too early for its time as well.
Probably.
Yeah, and but
yeah, so now it just becomes one of those museum pieces because it's still in the box.
Yeah.
But so the podcast for me allows me that freedom of expression. That really and allows people to hear me more than just one set that I send in EPK, right? Which I'm working on my EPK right now.
Very nice.
I just got the draft for it. So yeah, that's and I guess the one thing is the one thing I didn't have before that I have now is the money to invest, because this comes to the business side of things, and the business side of things is this is an investment, kids, right? You've got to invest in your music, you got to invest in your equipment, you've got to invest, and if you think that it's not an investment,
you got to invest into your brand and the way you promote yourself, what you put out there, in terms of content and the things that you create.
Absolutely.
Because social media, I mean, as much as maybe like our generation might not like it as much because it feels kind of a little bit like,
but that's the key.
Silly, but it's here to stay. It's not going away.
No, not at all.
It might evolve over time, but I think it's going to stick around for a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I had to invest in understanding social media, and I had to invest in help with that, because I can't do it all myself, and you won't be able to do it all yourself. You just reminded me, someone from Detroit wants to collaborate. Damn it. Okay. So
should reach out to them. Do it, man.
Oh no, I've been in contact with him. He's a young kid. I just haven't had time to make something with him. But
so when you watch the video, you can remember again.
I'll remember it again. Claudio, Detroit. But yeah, so that's kind of the thing. The podcast has given me that freedom, and then these label things was just, it happened very quickly. You send out. So first I released Don's Dub. So there's one EP called the Don's EP, which is available for free download. ClaudioFerroneDJ.com, on Instagram at ClaudioFerroneDJ. There's the links in there. Thank goodness for Linktree. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Because Instagram, that one URL, right? It's a pain in the butt. Like, why?
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And then in terms of branding, I had the podcast brand. Once I saw the actual branding for the podcast logo, I'm like, wow, this is actually gonna happen. And then you have to work on your own logos too. And I went and got those done, which I have to put onto a hat still, because when I go to Europe, I want my logo. Boom. And it's important to self-advertise. And then so Don's Dub was a single, which I turned into an EP by sampling a vocal from this. I can't remember the name of the track. It was Jason Alexander and not Jason Alexander, excuse me. Wow, brain fart. Anyway,
you're getting old, man.
You know what? It's gonna bother me. I'm gonna look it up.
Do it. Do it.
It's really bothering me right now. Can you believe this?
Make some notes. Collaboration with Detroit.
No. That I'll remember. It's still on my thing. It's just I have to follow my own link tree
in order to remember. Which track you sampled.
Oh, it's. There we go. Down ZP. It's on SoundCloud. But anyway, so I went there. It's called Dawn's First Time. Jason Jinx and Paul Alexander. Thank you.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. So, and to be honest with you, it's not for sale because I really didn't get the permission for it. So I just took it, put it on because it sounded good, and here it's for free. My own little remix. And then I reached out to a bunch of labels. I had 3 other songs, and Stereophonic picked up 3 of them very quickly. I was pretty shocked about it. I think they're coming out in June. Waiting for the artwork. And then I was approached through Instagram by someone who asked about the Dawn EP. And she said she was the A&R at Opium Muzik. Hi, Christine. And she was the one who noticed the sound and the quality. She's from our generation. And she asked about Dawn's, and she said, well, if you have other stuff, send it our way. So that's where Yeah Trippin' came in. And I said, okay, well, I'm working on something. Have a listen. And Jean at...
what sort of software do you use to create your music?
I'm on FL Studio.
Okay.
I've used everything from Cubase to Reason to... I have Ableton. I like the intuitiveness of FL. Maybe it might change. I don't know. We'll see.
It sounds like you're having a bit of like a renaissance almost, right? With your passion that you've had before.
But this opened up. And it's just coming. It's moving in a direction with focus and with assertiveness now.
Maybe it's for the better too, because you can probably appreciate it a lot more too. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that if you were younger, maybe you would have just taken it for granted, maybe to some extent, right? So.
Yeah, I would have him and hawed, and I've got lots of time. Well, now this is my chance, and I'm not messing around. I almost slipped and added an F word in there to accentuate the point, but I didn't. PG.
PG-13.
PG. So yeah,
that's really awesome, man. I'm really happy for you. That's amazing.
Thanks. So it's just progressing, and in May I'm heading out to Italy. Luckily, with my day job, I can work remotely. The beautiful thing about working in Europe, your day job here is you get to sign in at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Beautiful.
Right? Because it's 8:00 here, right? Yeah. So this is perfect. And they don't eat dinner there until 10:00 anyway, so it's like a win-win.
It works out perfectly.
I get 36 hours somehow. So yeah, that's I'm going to go there. I'm going to Ibiza. I want to try to get there for the International Music Summit, but I will be getting there just as it ends. I'll be there for opening parties, and I'm trying to network and try to get some gigs out there, because I've never spun in Europe. I've spun in North America, but not there.
Well, with your exposure now, I think probably through the label in Italy, I think you probably have a lot more of a chance to get into into that sphere and into that scene, right? So, but definitely, I think that's you obviously have the talent that's labels obviously recognize by signing you. So it's it's all or nothing, right? Just go for it.
It's all or nothing, and that's the thing right now. It's all or nothing.
That's amazing. I'm really happy for you. I think that it's incredible that you were able to, almost like reinvent yourself by taking that old identity and maybe make it into something else a little bit, but also allowing yourself to kind of grow and appreciate the process. It's right. So it's pretty incredible. As far as like the stuff on the internet, I mean, do you feel that it's kind of changed the music industry in the way that's things are happening now, and for somebody just starting out, I think that just like you, if somebody starts a podcast, I think it's a lot more of a chance for them to try to get their stuff out there as well, right?
Absolutely.
So I mean, people now have these tools that, at their, at their hands that they can utilize to try to make, a name for themselves, and it can give them so much more exposure than for somebody that, even for somebody like you, when you say you just started out with like fraternities, right, and doing those parties. So that in itself is sort of one of the things that people need to realize is if you're trying to get into that industry, it's you guys really have all the tools that you're,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, anything that you really wanted to, you can probably implement it. And if you really wanted to reach out to a label and DM them and like, try to even see if they'd be interested in listening to your stuff, or the world's
so much smaller.
Yeah,
now.
it's so much easier to network, and even with you being able to take your daytime job and work remotely and then go off and like play a gig or something like that, it gives you the ability to sort of enjoy much more of your life, right? And even though it does make the world a little bit smaller, I think in a sense it allows a little bit more of a freedom for people to kind of pursue their passions, right? And even for somebody like who's an artist to try to kind of to follow their passions a little bit more, right? And the ability for them to kind of pursue the things that they do. I really just think all it is just putting in the time and the effort and sharing your creativity with other people, and allow that to kind of speak for itself also.
I think so. And I think you just have to be, you got to be you can't be anyone else. If I don't go anywhere with this at all,
I believe you will. I truly do.
But if I don't, I can feel confident in knowing that even when I do silly things, like a live Instagram show, I try to reach through the camera and connect to people because I just want to connect with people. We're in an age where people are so disconnected that we have the ability to connect, but we just connect in a different way.
I agree 100%.
And that's the one thing I like about this is once you have the tools. For me, the podcast, I have people that'll listen to it before they go out. I have people that'll listen to it while they're cleaning. I have people. I have a friend who's a yoga instructor who used one of my songs in an Instagram video post. I have no problems with that. Like, go ahead, let's share. Let's grow together. Let's have fun together. Because really, in the end of the day, we're here once.
Sure, of course.
Not getting into religion at all. I'm not going to start talking about reincarnation or anything like that. No, none of that.
Are you sure?
I'm not. Right now, we're here, we're now. The present is a gift. Let's use it. Let's do it. My best thing that I am trying to do is to be the best me I can, to be the best role model I can for my kids, and just to enjoy every single day because I don't know what's happening tomorrow.
But you probably want to show them the fact that you can chase that dream, even if after years and years and years, you can still sort of rekindle that thing and go after that, right? So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that I think for anybody who's like really artistic and. Also, I kind of resonate with a lot of the stuff that you're saying too, because I was actually born in USSR, and I'd have piano lessons too, and I did them for about 6 years. So
you could do the accent.
I can try. Yeah.
Put the wrists up.
My mom was telling me because she used to do piano lessons too. Her teacher would walk up with a ruler, and every time she would do something wrong, just whip her hands with the ruler.
We're from a different. I think we're a different generation that I think we can legitimately ask what this next generation is doing because we got our butts handed to us on a regular by not just our parents, by like random strangers. Pop. I used to get haircuts. And my aunt used to like, a fresh haircut. Ha! Yep, that's a nice fresh haircut. Ow!
I think they'll never really experience that because it's something that's kind of in the past now, right? There's just so many different laws, so many regulations, so many different things where It's like, yeah, I'm getting abused by my parents because they're smacking me over the head, right? It was never. It's
I got a fresh haircut. They just want to hear skin on skin. That's it.
It allowed us to kind of, I think, sort of have the best of both worlds because we've experienced that past, generation, and we're still in the new now. So it allows us to kind of grow as people. But I think a lot of people, maybe from our generation, they're kind of really hesitant towards the progression, towards the new.
Yeah, and to be open to it.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of them are sort of. You can almost say that it's kind of the same with like a lot of the older people when. When they first brought out the tablets and old people who didn't really know how to use them and they're like, oh no, why would I touch that? Why would I play with that, right? Now it's a lot more of a common thing where it's just like people are just kind of do that. And like the progression of what we've done with the phones and as to how like you went from those little bricks with Nokias, right, to something where you can essentially do all of your business just on the phone, really.
Yeah,
you can manage all your marketing, all your social presence. You can do everything in terms of communication. Did you break my mic? It's all good. It's all good, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
There he goes again.
I didn't do it, but absolutely, yeah. How it progressed, and you have to either be accepting it or going against progress is just never done anything good. Yeah. So I remember the hesitancy of going from my BlackBerry to a touch.
Oh my goodness, I've had that too.
Yeah, because you can feel it, and now it's
like, why would they take my keyboard away, right?
Right.
I'm so used to it now. No, it's kind of crazy. Do you have any other channels where you kind of try to, pursue your artistic side as well? Like, do you do anything else outside of music as well?
I do. I'm a bit of a aside from sports, because my kids play pretty competitively. Well, they play competitive. They're not going NHL or anything, but they play competitive hockey. But because they're naturally competitive kids, so they're gonna go into that. But I like rounded. I was rounded. I played competitively soccer. I played hockey, tennis, golf, all that kind of stuff.
Wow,
I still enjoy those sports as much as I can. Getting old, I got injured, but I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, no, my kids, I'm active in their lives, very much so. But I also like to renovate. I've actually flipped a condo recently. Well, not a condo, building like an apartment. I gutted it and did it myself. And now I'm renovating my place again.
So you definitely have the entrepreneurial, a little bit of a thing going too, right?
I do. Yeah. Like, and I'm doing it myself.
And I think in order for you to sort of be a DJ too, you kind of have to be like that a little bit, right? So
you have to.
You have to be able to network, talk to different people, and be able to reach out without being, having any sort of hesitance. And you almost I think for a lot of people that are DJs, they're very introverted in some ways because they're very into their music. Yes. But also you have to almost create this perception of being a very extroverted person as well when you go up on the stage, right? When you're playing, when you're putting your music out there. It's almost like you have to compensate for whatever you're doing.
You have to. You're in your bubble there, and the world kind of disappears, and you know the people are there to listen to you and listen to your expression. But again, that depends on the venue.
That's true.
If you're playing a wedding, that's a completely different persona. If you're playing, not that I'm doing that because I haven't done that in years.
No coloring your hair blonde again.
No,
no bleach in your hair.
No bleach. No bleach. Although I'm very happy to be have a full head of hair at my age, so I'm never going to complain about that. But yeah, it's just you have to have a blend of things, right? And not all of us are perfect entrepreneurs. Not all of us are perfect anything. Would I prefer to have somebody else do the marketing? Absolutely. I hire people to do that because it just...
Well, I think it's one of those things that a lot of people, like you were saying before, they kind of need to just realize that you should stick to the thing that you're really good at.
There it is.
And, if you have any additional stuff that you kind of need taken care of in order for your business to be successful, sometimes it's better just to outsource it, really.
Absolutely.
And find somebody else who's better at their job and can bring you to that other level and help you sort of achieve those things. instead of you trying to kind of dabble in like 100 different things to make your business successful.
That's where I was when I was younger, because I was so determined to do it myself, stand on my own 2 feet. It doesn't work that way, and it just takes time. It takes, maturity.
Do you think it was because of your upbringing too and stuff like that, and just
probably
because you wanted to kind of always be in control of everything and like just be kind of like a DIYer as well, maybe?
A little bit of the upbringing to that, a little bit of the. Well, back then, DJs weren't exactly mainstream, so DJs were still. What are you doing as a DJ? It was like
you're playing somebody else's records. Why would you do that, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right? So
and then now now when you see these guys, you see like guys, Calvin Harris, you see Tiesto,
Deadmau5 or somebody like that, right? I mean,
he did amazing.
Yeah.
Funny enough, my ex-wife knows him. She.
You know what's funny enough? I used to go clubbing with him.
Did you?
I didn't really personally know him because I had a connection with some of the people that used to go clubbing in Toronto.
Yeah.
And it's a small world. You run into people all the time and you meet people. And
here's a funny little story, which kind of blew my mind. I go over to her house to get my boys, and she goes, "Oh, someone I used to babysit just won a Juno." I go, "Okay." She goes, "Yeah, it was just little Joey Simmerman." I'm like, little? That dude, that's Deadmau5. Because she's not into the music.
Yeah.
It's like,
little Joey.
Oh God, please do not sue me for that. But yeah, just little as in the little kid that she used to babysit. I'm like, holy cow.
It really is such a small world. I don't know. I think that
I'm gonna have Deadmau5 on my doorstep. What the hell, man?
Why did you tell him that story? Why did you mention that?
Sorry, dude. I didn't mean. Welcome to the 4 a.m. media and getting in trouble for stuff.
So let's talk about maybe just some of the bad rep that maybe the industry sort of gets to with. Let's not go into too deep because it kind of gets political with the drugs and everything else. But I think it's obviously one of those things that's still present to some extent, and I think that it kind of feeds into some of the things. But I think it also allows some people to kind of experience music in a different way too.
Sure.
And I think that it kind of, as much as people want to deny it, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with that industry as well. And I think that it takes a toll on some of the DJs as well because they get into substance abuse, right? And
look at Avicii.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, it's an actual thing that affects people, and just kind of keep sweeping it under the rug. It's not really a thing that
Well, I'm not gonna be the type of person who says that they never experimented because people do those things for various reasons. They all have their own reasons. Some could be for enjoying the music, just enhancing it. Some could be simply to try it. Others could be escaping. It is politicized. It's a big issue. Suffice it to say, yes, it's part of the scene. The only thing that I would personally advise, just be careful when you do it. If and when, be with people that are safe, and if you're feeling out of control, go to someone who's safe. But it's always going to be there. It's not like it's going to go away. I don't really know how to.
I think it's one of those things that sort of singled out and makes it look really bad, but in reality, I mean, you look at so many people nowadays that are on prescription medication, and to some extent, it's almost like, well, it kind of affects you as a person too, and your personality and the things that you do as a person too, and
But I think it comes down to how and why, the how and the why.
Yeah.
Right. So why is someone using the drugs? Well, are they doing it to escape? Are they doing it because there's some really bad stuff happening in their personal lives and this is their escape? Are they doing it to just enhance the experience? You can very easily do some mild stuff, you know, natural products. Is that the best way to not call the drugs what they are? A bit more of the natural stuff, and really trip out and enjoy like the, you know, little brownies, the legal stuff now.
Yeah.
You can do the legal stuff now.
Yeah.
And just to kind of have a nice little enhanced buzz. It's almost like watching a movie in 3D, really.
Exactly.
For those who don't do any of those. Or you can get into the harder stuff. Now the harder stuff, there's a big resurgence of it now. Stuff that I never even thought would be coming back. And
well, everything's coming back. Like the 90s style is coming back.
The 90s style,
the 80s styles that were back maybe 5 years ago, right? It's just everything that's new is, you know, the good old like forgotten stuff, right? That that's coming about, right? So it's
so for the record, I don't do anything. I haven't in a while. I personally don't. I don't judge people who do. I don't judge people at all, really, except for bad drivers.
The struggle is real.
The struggle. And I'm not saying any particular race, religion, or anything's bad drivers. It's just bad drivers in general, because they come in all shapes and sizes.
You're starting to sound like your dad now, man.
No, I'm just someone who drives the Toronto roads, and wow.
Yeah. I was looking at statistics. I think they say on average, it takes an average Torontonian, I think, to get to their place of work, like I think like 35 minutes. But
that's a good day.
Yeah, that's a good day.
That's a really good day. My drive here was an hour, but it could have been less because it was just traffic.
Yeah, of course. But it's just the infrastructure that they built in the 60s that hasn't really been really updated to accommodate whatever, you know, the volume that we have now, right? So that's a whole other story. There's another thing too that I think worth mentioning too is, you know, like the health hazards of DJing as well, right? If you're constantly traveling and you're not really taking care of yourself, you're not eating properly,
long hours,
and then if you look at somebody like maybe like Sasha, right? Like when he took a hiatus on just like, you know, going off just to make sure that his hearing was still there. Yeah, right. So like he took a break from that. I mean, that's some of the things that I think that, you know, if you're getting into the industry, you gotta
be cognizant.
Just keep it in mind as well, I think, and be aware of those things. I mean, and for sure, I think that, you know, having those people that are there with you and ensuring that you have, you know, friends with you. But the thing is, with a lot of DJs, they're loners, right? In a lot of the ways too. They travel on their own, so a lot of the times I think there's probably a lot of issues like depression and like whatever else, and the fact that they dabble in drugs and they're constantly exposed to, you know, fast food and like whatever else. You need to really take care of yourself as you get older, and especially if you want to have a successful career. That's one of the things that you really need to like kind of watch out for and to always keep in mind as well, right? So
I agree, because when I was younger, I wasn't as fit as I am now. I think it takes the maturity of mind to get yourself into a workout routine, and even when you break from the workout routine, you still have to maintain healthy food choices. Now, mind you, I will gladly take a bag of chips, all dressed chips, and I will smash that thing in a day.
It's a very Canadian thing, actually, right? All dressed, it's only really available in Canada,
right?
Just like ketchup chips.
Ketchup, Doritos are pretty good too. I don't know what this ketchup thing is, but then again, in Europe they do mayo, like mayo on fries, and sorry to my European, but
the funniest thing I saw in the Netherlands when I went there for a year to study at the university, and it was like mayo was common with fries, right? Where everywhere you go, and I went to a grocery store. I was looking for some mayo, and one of the packages I saw, it said the real American fry sauce. And I'm like, what? And I look at it, it just says mayo. And I'm like, so they market it as like almost like an American thing. Meanwhile, it's a really European thing.
We're all ketchup.
Well, the French fries too, right? I guess.
That's true.
And when they changed it in the States, remember Freedom Fries?
I remember Freedom. People get silly.
No, it's I think that's there was definitely a lot of influence coming from Europe for a lot of the industry as well. I think that there was a lot of roots that were coming from Detroit and Chicago and New York scenes, and I think it's become very globalized now, and it's changing. It's definitely, the fact that we have internet is kind of allowed a lot of people to
experience.
Taste. And it's amazing that you've had that. I'm not gonna be. I won't feel bad for using this word, but I think you're having that renaissance again with your career researching it, and going back into that. I think that's awesome, but I think that's you're definitely going to make it, and you obviously have a wiser head on your shoulders, and you're able to utilize that for your own benefit in pursuing this thing. And you obviously have the little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit too, and the ability to kind of go forward with achieving these things. And the fact that you have the talent to utilize that too is one of those things that will be beneficial in this career. And I think that it's in a sense, maybe like I was saying, I think it's better maybe because you're older, because it allows you sort of to step back and kind of take a look at the life in different perspective. But I kind of want to get the message across to the younger generation that might dabble and consider getting into this industry, to realize that it's a business too, right? It's not just you going out and partying every single day and hooking up and playing clubs, and there is some of that aspect to it as well. But I think that you kind of need to realize that in order for you to make it successful, unless you have some other side gigs on the side, it's hard to make it in this industry, especially now with the amount of DJs that are out there, the amount of production that's out there, the amount of talent that's out there. And you have to really make yourself stand out and have some sort of a unique aspect to you as well, but also be able to kind of blur that line between the artistic ability of you trying to create something, but also being able to sell that to somebody else, right? And getting somebody else to buy that. So I think that electronic music, I'll call it that, is here to stay, and I think that it's gonna obviously continue to evolving, because it's always been, like, I've noticed it even in the last 20 years, it just continuously evolves and it grows and changes into something else. I mean, there's always going to be those bad things that come with that, but it's one of those industries, like, even though everybody sort of tries to label it into different genres, it's always going to evolve into something else. And it's almost like the hackers online. The FBI comes after them and they're on to the next thing already by the time that somebody comes to them. And it's always sort of been that thing with the electronic music, that it's always evolved into something else. It's always have that underground element no matter what. And I don't want to say that wasn't the case with hip hop, because I think that there's still some of that as well. But I think that's now that ever since hip hop has overtaken rock as the most popular genre now, it's kind of lost a lot of that credibility. And I mean, you always also dabbling in that, you can probably attest to the fact that it's maybe it's just us sounding like old, but it's not the same, right? Like it used to be, and it's
not the same. It's going through its own evolution. Probably similar to what the house music went through. Because when I'll pull up, there was a time when house and hip hop were hand in hand.
Exactly,
it wasn't. I don't want to say neck and neck, because there was no race. It was hip house. And all it was is just the beat and people rapping over top of it, and rapping over top of it for social issues of their day.
Well, like Africa Bambaataa or somebody like that, right? That was the original like fusion, right? Or like
I'm talking like Jack to the Sound, the Underground. Like, I'm talking the New York, the Detroit styles. I have the hits of hip house, nice. A 2-pack of vinyl from the 80s.
I think you should do a special episode on that.
I have to dig them all out.
You should do it, definitely.
It's going to be an analog episode, as best as I can, and it's going to be. I just need the time. I haven't got the time right now. I'm currently building my kitchen. So, seriously.
He's literally building the house.
I'm literally redoing the house. I've got 3 cabinets put together. I actually have to run to the store to exchange one of them.
It's funny how it's a house DJ building a house, right?
Building a house, yeah. So, but yeah, no, like, it's just, hip-hop is doing its own evolution, and its path. You've got some great talents there, too.
You do, absolutely, I agree.
Doing some great beats, and they're playing to what appeals today and to the generation. So I see online the mumble rap versus the old school rap, and
the drone rap.
I don't understand
the drone rap or whatever this is called.
I don't get it, but at the same time, I do find some good tracks in there. So, for example, with trap music, right? Yeah, I actually listen to Italian and Latin trap.
Nice. Okay.
I don't listen to North American trap. That appeals to me.
It's funny because I've when I started getting into hip hop, I was growing up in USSR. We were always influenced by a lot of foreign, maybe some of the European hip hop as well. And I was getting into like a lot of like French rap at the time, like MC Solar. Like I don't know if you've ever heard of him. No, but like he used to be like huge in France, and now I find myself getting into a lot of German hip hop, which it seems like the really hardest thing I've ever heard. Like, and like it's incredible, but like I would have never thought that I would be getting into something like that. But it's.
But I find they're raw. They're raw, and
it's almost like they almost have like similar beginnings to what it used to be in like North America.
Yeah.
And they're just really doing it from the heart, even though it has become commercialized to a lot of extent.
Still pretty intense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that you kind of have to. If you're really into music, you just have to look outside of your comfort zone and like explore all the other stuff that's out there. And I think that with your, kind of the roots that you've had with maybe like where you started off with piano music, it allowed you to kind of get that classical maybe training to some extent, some of that classical background as well.
I try.
How important do you think that was in your evolution of being able to produce tracks and like the creativity of it?
Well, it trained my ears to know what sound kind of work. Yeah, now technology will give you the arpeggio, and you can. So basically, the software you can set the chord that you want, and then as you're going through the set, you can pick and choose the notes, but you'll have that reference point as you go. I find it distracting. I just kind of start going by ear whenever I play with it. That's where the classical came in. I did music theory as well, so I was transpositioning and writing stuff. So, anyway. So I don't do that quite as much. Technology is far, progressed that, so I can do it live instead. It's I think my particular history, call it classical music, jazz music, hip hop, R&B, house, and in all the different forms, everything that I've experienced, I put on my sets. And when I was trying to come up with how do I define my style, how do I do it? Because I find there's DJs that want to be European, so they play that music exactly. Well, I got to play it like this. There's DJs that want to be popular, so they got to play the popular music. Well, where am I? And I think a lot of DJs are out there like that. Well, where am I? Only you can answer that. I can't. I can answer me. And for me, is basically it's a blend of North American, European, and
maybe some South America too, probably because
South America,
because there's a lot of stuff that's coming out of there nowadays.
Yeah. Oh, amazing!
A lot of stuff.
The Miami, the kind of Latin sound stuff. Just shake your butt, So mine is this blend of all of these sounds. And essentially, it's what moves me. So if I like it, hopefully they like it. So and it'll be minimal. It could be house. It could be. I'll throw in a vocal because I absolutely love some vocal house. Like if I'm feeling emotional that day, you will definitely hear on that set some more emotional tracks. If I'm feeling spunky, if I'm feeling frisky, you're gonna hear those kinds of tracks. Except for episode 20. I'm telling you right now, episode 20 is just banger after banger after banger. There's some kind of, I have to bring it down a sec because some songs have to kind of slow it down because it's like, okay,
you just had a lot of energy that day.
It's like, hold on. It's like, hold on. Okay, just chill for a second. We're going to get a little boring one for a second and then right back in. I'm halfway through this set and I'm like, wow. People are looking at me as I'm driving. It's like boom, boom.
I think it was a quote from Jeff Mills or somebody, one of the DJs that I heard a long time ago that sort of really stuck with me was he was saying that if you play a lot of the like old school music that people don't know about, and if you mix it up with the newer stuff, that's when it makes you really a DJ, because it allows you to almost like fuse the like the history of the music and the progression that it's kind of had on on people, and it allows you to grow as a DJ as well, kind of thing, right? So
absolutely,
and I think that's sort of maybe one of those tips maybe that people can take away and maybe utilize for themselves as well. But
absolutely,
it's been a pleasure to have you, man. You want to just plug all your stuff, like all the stuff that's coming out for your singles, everything? When is it coming out? Which record labels?
Sure.
Where can they buy it? How can they purchase it?
Okay.
And how can they support you? And then maybe we can give us some of your top threes for who are the DJs that you actually still listen to, and some of the artists that are up and coming that you actually are digging, maybe that's outside of electronic music too, and
maybe also
talk about that.
Maybe also like some advice for up and coming other DJs.
Okay. And maybe if you were addressing yourself in when you were 18 right now, and you're able to send that message, what would you say to yourself? Loaded question. 3 things at the same time.
Wow. Okay.
And that's a wrap up after that.
Okay, it's a wrap after this. All right. Okay. Instagram at Claudio Ferrone DJ. Now, Ferrone is Ferrone. Funny story. It's actually a family nickname from the old country. So Claudio Ferrone DJ is my Instagram. Same for the website. Torhouse Music is my podcast. .com for all of those. Maybe I should probably spell it out. Torhousemusic.com. I think the link will be in the bios.
Yeah, we'll definitely post it, of course. Yeah,
for sure.
That's how you see. Ask for it. Always ask. Like Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly.
So my songs are coming out on Opium Muzik. I've got a song called Ya Trippin'. There is the Don's EP, Don's Dub, and Don's First Time, available for free download. Link is in the Instagram. I have the Groove EP, which is Give Me, and poor Groove EP. I forgot the third one. Those are coming out on Stereophonic. I don't have dates, unfortunately.
Sure.
Yeah.
Opium just gave me the artwork. They're looking at a April-May release. Stereophonic is looking at a June release for the EP. Those will all be available on Spotify, on Beatport,
nice,
on all, like across the platforms.
Excellent.
So those will be there. I'm trying to remember what else you asked me. In terms of DJs that I'm watching, looking at, oh man, you know what? There's my buddies that I really enjoyed listening to them play. They're here in Toronto, and I'm gonna plug them.
You absolutely should, of course.
Absolutely.
That's what it's for. This is your platform, right?
Absolutely.
This is your chance to talk.
So there's a couple guys in Toronto, Brothers of House, Corrado Q. Amazing set. This guy is really good. They're starting to work with One Loft down on College Street. Boutros was there as well. They're forming up a new group. I don't remember the name of it.
Look it up.
I'm looking it up quickly because because forgive me.
With Stereophonics, what kind of formats of music do they play? They release or sorry?
They're releasing a lot of. It's varied, but the tech house, house music, some minimal stuff. They're based out of Trieste in Italy.
Nice.
Opium Muzik is based both in New York and Naples. They're releasing another variety. They're a hot and coming brand as well. I have Boutros. They are. You think I would have the name of the?
Do you have any up and coming gigs at all that you're playing anywhere? Or
Refuge is their thing.
Okay.
I'm playing. So I'm playing. My buddy is F Stop Greek, which was Terry Funk. He's doing his not going away. He's retiring from DJing, and on Instagram at the Terry Funk, he's doing a 12-hour set.
Nice.
April 13th. So I'm going to open up for him. because goodness knows I'm not going to do a 12-hour set right now. I've done them before.
Well, what's the longest set you've ever done?
Longest set I ever did, we played all day for the University of Western Ontario. But there was 3 of us, so I can't remember how long it was, but it was just...
It was like a back-to-back thing, right?
There was 2 or 3 of us back-to-back, and at that time, it was out in the open, and we were playing vinyl. And the sun coming down onto the records are
warping the records.
Oh my! We had to get umbrellas over top because it was just the records were like that. I'm like, I don't want to lose this white label. So there's a few plugs. As I said, my episode 21 is going to have my old DJ partner. DJ Dre Soul is going to have a guest set. I'm going to start to introduce guest sets on it. So I'll play for an hour and then half an hour will be a guest set. And then I got to say hi to my old friend Starchild, who's still doing live set on Facebook. He does his live sets every once in a while. The list is honestly of DJs that are
I can only imagine. I mean, especially with you being involved in the scene for so long, and
like for example, like when I mentioned my first mixer, you remember a DJ Kenny Glasgow?
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
He's one, and he's still active. Like so, he gave me my first mixer, and I still give him.
Kenny Glasgow gave you your first mixer. Yeah. No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the thing, and to this day, I still give him props and I haven't seen him in years, but at the same time. I know he's still doing really good things, really successful. I'm running into guys that I've DJed years ago with that are still spinning.
Why don't you reach out to them and just send them your productions and be like, hey, listen, can you?
I am.
If you like them, if you like it, you just
Once
give me the
it's all now. This is all the stuff. That's
so perfect. We caught you just at the right moment, just as you're
like this is all the.
So 2-3 years from now, when you're playing all the big clubs around the world, don't forget to come back and do another podcast with us.
If that happens, I will gladly do it.
Okay, fantastic.
Gladly. I'm knocking on wood for it all because it is a dream.
No, of course.
And
I think you just need to imagine it in your head that it's going to happen.
It's there.
And just write it down on a piece of paper, sign off on it, and just know that you're headed in that direction.
Again, it doesn't look like it because I know a DJ is supposed to look, whatever a DJ is supposed to look like, but this is what a DJ looks like too. So we come in different shapes and sizes. To my younger self, or to any of the guys starting out, take this time to find yourself, to find your brand, to find what moves you. You will need to create a brand. The music, there's so much music coming out. Remember to focus on programming it, create a path, and it'll be a path of your own self-discovery as you're doing it.
Amazing.
That's about it, really.
Claudio, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Did I answer everything?
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah.
I don't know. Did you want to add anything?
Don't hurt me.
Did you want to add anything else?
There's so much. It's an hour and a half of me talking.
Yeah. I honestly, I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I think that it's fantastic. You like I said, a lot of the stuff that you're doing, a lot of the memories, it kind of brought a lot of stuff in me as well, and I kind of needed to maybe touch base with that as well. And in a sense, maybe it was for me, but at the same time, I think it was great to have somebody who's had the experience and the knowledge of the of the scene, and we kind of want to promote and give the opportunity for those people to speak on our podcast as well, but also provide them with valuable information that they can utilize themselves if they want to pursue this career, right?
Yeah.
If they want to be entrepreneurial, if they want to go into the business for themselves. So I think that it's great because it allowed us to bring somebody on who's had the knowledge and the prior experience of dealing with that industry to some extent, but also somebody who's coming about and who's going to be big soon, and I'm sure of it. And
we'll see.
You know what I mean? Like it's
it's time to do a little story update.
I think so.
Instagram.
I think so.
All right,
let's do it.
Yeah.
Just doing an interview right now, live.
Stacking Wisdom Podcast.
Stacking Wisdom Podcast. Interviewing. Subscribe.
Watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Spotify, on Stitcher, on SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes.
follow both Claudio and Stacking Wisdom on Instagram.
Yeah, well, I'm going to put the links in a second under the bottom of this somehow. And an hour and a half of me talking. Can you believe that stuff?
He didn't think it was possible.
So now I got to figure out how to do this. Okay, so it's going to go.
So thanks again. Let's wrap up the episode. And,
we'll do.
Maybe we'll do like a couple of short things for our social media too.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Beauty.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claudio.
Thank you.
Yep.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Later.